right, hi, and welcome to the Enduro Method Podcast. I am Dane Toney here with Joshua Rempel.
Hello.
And today we are on podcast number 3 of our nutrition series. The first one we talked about the basics of nutrition. Second one we kind of went into macronutrients, kind of more of the quantity of food and dialing that in. And then today we're going to be talking about race or long ride nutrition.
Yeah, kind of specific nutrition for being on the bike for a long time.
Yeah. So, where do you want to start?
I would say good place to start would be that if your general nutrition is shit, there's no amount of race or ride day nutrition that's going to save you.
Yeah.
So, and this kind of plays off the last 2 episodes we've done, but like if you eat alcohol and pizza all week and then you want to really dial in your pre-ride nutrition to get all that maximum performance, you're kind of spinning your wheels.
Yeah.
So I would say if you're trying to take that race or that ride real serious, at least the 3 or 4 days leading up to it should be pretty dialed in as well. And maybe that doesn't mean you're counting your macros and all that stuff, but it definitely means eating quality foods and getting some lean protein in there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, eating your veggies
and staying hydrated.
Yeah, water.
Hydration starts not the day before, but the week before.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, all that stuff matters. So, this is we're finally kind of getting down to like the tip of the spear, if you will. Mm-hmm. And the tip of the spear isn't going to be that sharp or high if the bottom of the pyramid or the bottom of the base sucks. And so you got to have all those other things dialed in to have this last little tiny bit matter, right? Because if the other part isn't there and there's no foundation, this is going to be somewhat negligible as well.
Yep. So I guess first and foremost, you don't ever really want to try something on race day or
good point
or ride day. So whatever information we provide you, it's not to try at your next race, it's to try at your next training ride.
Yeah.
See how it goes, so then you can understand how your body responds and make adjustments as needed.
Yeah, kind of a little funny anecdote to this was, but it's exactly that. You don't try new things before a race or before like something you're taking very serious. But we were in the desert going on this big ride with a group of people we didn't know very well. And the guy that was kind of leading the rides, known to be a little aggro, just doesn't communicate very well. And kind of like when he leaves, the ride starts. Anyways, weird group dynamics. But I was a little worried because I was like, we're going to be out there. Like, I think it was like an 80-mile loop. Like, it was a big day. We had gas stashed halfway across the desert and all kinds of stuff. And I don't ever put anything in my water. Like, I just do water, and then I bring electrolytes or whatever on the side that I'll take if I need them. But I panicked, and I put some of this Hammer Nutrition in my camel pack, and it clumped. Like, it didn't stir. It didn't mix at all. It literally clumped and then stuffed up the water tube. And so, like, everybody's basically on a start line. And I go to take a drink, and I can't get any water out of my camel pack. And, like, I start freaking out because I'm like, oh, shit, we're starting. We got to go. And, like, everybody's taking off. And I'm sitting there with my back off my shoulders. Don't have the GPS tracks where we're going, any of that stuff. And I'm dealing with this clumped up water tube. So anyways, moral of the story, I'm like, don't try new shit before goodness. Like,
that was actually pretty funny, I remember.
Yeah. So.
He's like, you're totally spazzing out. Yeah. Like, help me. I'm like, I don't. And that was funny. Don't try it beforehand. Okay, so pre-race, number 1 would be to have a plan. You probably go to the grocery store prior to, loading up and going to your race location. So having a plan as to what you're eating, maybe on the way there, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, dinner especially the night before, and then having a plan for your breakfast or right before the race. But just knowing what you're gonna do and kind of sticking to it, and not just like aimlessly choosing foods, or not really
willy-nilly.
Willy-nilly, or just not having a plan. So having a plan is best. Obviously the more serious you're taking this, the more dialed that needs to be. If you don't really care so much, maybe that doesn't matter as much. But if you really want to dial in your race nutrition, then having a plan is first and foremost.
Well, that and knowing, again, going back to macros, like you should know the macros that you're eating before a race, and maybe even the dinner before.
Yeah.
Right? Because...
And know how your body responds to them.
Totally. And the more you care, or the better you want to perform, the more that you need that consistency there. Because, changing it up and having 40 grams of carbohydrates difference, which could be like 2 bananas essentially, might be a big freaking difference. And if you've never tracked it, then you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You might have been, man, I felt great that one race. What did I do different than this one where I kind of fell on my face at 2-hour mark? And it could be something as simple as that. Again, all caveats being taken in, like the week leading up matters. Mm-hmm. And so maybe that other week you ate super healthy the whole time, and then the week that you fell on your face at the 2-hour mark, maybe you went out with your friends for 2 or 3 of those nights that week and didn't get enough sleep, and there's so many things that matter. Again, this pre-race nutrition is kind of hard to talk about it, I feel like, on some level, because of all these other things that make up such a difference, and sleep is a big one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just on a basic level, pre-race, we're eating quality foods that we know through experimenting prior are going to be easy to digest.
And they work well with you.
Yep.
Right? Like if you eat oatmeal every morning, you're like, I love oatmeal and I feel great, stick with oatmeal. Right? Don't make any drastic changes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, the morning of.
And so, like we discussed in our macronutrients podcast, carbohydrates are our major source of energy. So the night before, we want a balanced meal with carbs. And then the morning of, we want our meals to be light and lean, is what I like to say. You don't want anything super heavy, but we definitely do want some carbohydrates in that. So for example, what Josh and I do, and mind you, this is what we do, but I wouldn't necessarily say that this is the 100% best answer for everyone. So I think our last race we had oatmeal. Was it oatmeal?
Eggs and oatmeal.
Yogurt and oatmeal.
Yeah.
Yogurt and oatmeal.
I typically do eggs. I mean, I eat eggs almost every morning. Mm-hmm. So I usually eat eggs before a race.
But you eat eggs, bacon, and all the other stuff too. And before a race, we're not adding all the bacon and all the heavy cheese and stuff like that. So personally, I would like maybe 1 to 2 scrambled eggs, really light on that, just for the protein. There is some fat in there, so you do want to be mindful of it, whether it weighs you down or not. To me, 1 to 2 feels actually pretty good. And that's going to make me feel full and give me kind of some sustenance. But then kind of basing it more around that carbohydrates, and then having the oatmeal. I think we had pancakes before Grinding Stone.
Yeah.
That's why I wrote so well. So pancakes is another good one. I think we had pancakes and Greek yogurt on that one, and that was a great one. So those are some things that we do the night before. We're typically eating lean protein and rice and veggies, and that's pretty much consistent, I would say, the whole week prior. So lean protein, veggies, and rice or potatoes. And that's, I would say, lunch and dinner for the whole week leading up. I mean, that's kind of our MO anyways. But that's kind of what we do. And then let's talk. Do you want anything to add pre-race? Hydration and sleep. We should talk about that.
Sleep's important. You want to get in that 8-hour range if possible. There's a lot of people doing a lot of work on all this stuff. That's super fascinating if you want to go down that rabbit hole, but sleep's very, very important.
Sleep's huge, and one thing to be mindful of is it's that week leading up to, so I always used to get stressed because the night before I didn't always sleep that good because you're thinking about the race, you're anxious, you're nervous, whatever, and maybe you don't sleep that well, but it's, and that's, not optimal, obviously, but it's really the 5-7 nights before, if you're getting 8 hours a night those nights before and really maximizing your quality, in quotes, of sleep, that's gonna, add up. And then hydration, a lot of people like to hydrate right before, but it's really more about hydrating days in advance.
Yeah.
So those are the things to do and be mindful of pre-race. And then let's talk about during a race, how to fuel yourself during a race. So anything over an hour, you've got to stay on top of. Anything under an hour, you don't need anything.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And you could make the argument that 2-hour mark is the real important one. Mm-hmm. Because, basically if you go out and do something that's, let's call sub 2 hours, not only is that race going to be super fast, and this is more race specific, longer rides, we can talk about that too, but we'll just say races for now. But sub 2 hours, you don't really need to worry about fueling during the race. Now, that's not to say you shouldn't drink some water or electrolyte stuff, but as far as the actual food goes, you probably don't need it. Now, if it goes past 2 hours, you need to know that because you need to plan ahead for that. Because if you wait to eat, let's say it's a 4+ hour race and you wait to eat first at the 2 hour mark, you might be behind the wagon a little bit already. And so knowing how long that's going to take, for you and be out on that course is important. Typically, and again, let's say anything over 2 hours on a race, you want to be eating anywhere from 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrate per hour for the duration every hour. So if you had a 4-hour race and you knew that at hour 1, somewhere in there, you'd like to try and get 30 to 60 grams of carbs in. At the hour 2 mark, you'd get another 30 to 60 grams in. At the 3-hour mark, another 30 to 60 grams of carbs in. And then that would put you at that 4-hour mark. And again, if you get behind the wagon in that, it's hard to recover sometimes.
It often leads to that quote-unquote bonk.
Yeah. Race. And there's more to it than just nutrition, but being able to stay on top of that as best you can will definitely help. Now, if you're, again, sub 2 hours is total time for race, you're probably not even going to want to take the time to pull over and pop a gel or some gummies or something because it just takes too much time, right? Because the race is pretty fast. Whereas when you're getting into 4 hours, on a bike, like whether you've fallen over or you're taking a quick breather or you're in a bottleneck or something like that, there's plenty of time to eat something really quick and not have it negatively affect your performance.
Mm-hmm. I think this goes person to person too. Like I definitely am. I really find myself liking to stay up on this stuff more so than probably you. Whereas if it's a 2-hour race, I might actually try and have something at one point, something right. Quick. But that's because I know me. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, anything under at 3 hours, for example, the Bearmouth Extreme, I think I was out on the course for 2.5 hours. I did eat a packet of gummies at one point. I was kind of waiting for the line to open up through one of the creek sections and real quick popped them in. And, whether or not that did anything, I'm not sure. But it was kind of that duration is kind of short enough where you can power through, push through. Whereas if I had been out there if I had even one more lap, 4 laps instead of just 3, yeah, then it would have been helpful. You know, it would have been a little bit more important to get that food in.
Mm-hmm. How about electrolytes and maybe carbs in your Camelback? You already said you don't like it, but
that's just a personal thing. I have done it. So we use this stuff called LMNT, which is
it's element.
Yeah, but it's LMNT right there. Element. Anyways.
Elemental Labs.
Yeah. It's fantastic. It's just, let's see that packet. So it just comes in a little tiny packet. It's 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams potassium, 60 milligrams of magnesium, and that's it. So there's no added sugars to this, which is really nice. And it works really well for me. Dane uses it as well. We've handed them out to people here and there who have had great success with them.
When they're cramping.
When they're cramping as well. And so what I'll do is I just have a couple of these packets in my bag, and I'll just rip the packet open, pour the whole powder concoction in my mouth, and then swig it down with water, which is very aggressive. But it works really well. So if I start cramping, because I'll usually, for whatever reason, right around the 3-hour mark for me, and if anybody's got suggestions or knows on this stuff, hit me up, because I'm always trying to learn and figure this stuff out. But I'll get adductor cramp, and then usually a lat. So those are like the 2 spots for me that usually get hit, and that's 3-hour mark. I'll pound one of these salts, and then usually within 10 minutes it goes away, and I'm good to go for a while. But it's kind of an interesting deal, because it definitely is around that 3-hour mark that it seems to happen. And so anyways, this stuff's really good. I've tried putting it in my water before, but I just don't like it's great for the first hour, and then I get tired of the sweetness. And so for me, it's just not, I'd rather have it on the side, and I can just use it as I want. I know you kind of like to put it in your water.
Yeah, so I'm not opposed to putting it in my water. I don't have any issues.
Yeah.
So I'll put, I actually started putting this stuff in my water, the element, and I've actually seen really good results with that. But like I said, this is working for me. You need to try it out for yourself. So last year, in 2019, King of Motos, granted I had lost a foot peg, so there was that piece to add into this, and I was refusing to stop riding, but I was definitely cramping hard in that race. I did at one point catch myself getting behind. So there's multifold here. So I know I didn't eat soon enough, because by the time I ate, I was like, I knew it. Like, I just knew I had dug myself a hole. And once you dig that hole, it's really hard to climb out. So really, for me, I was like, okay, next time I got to stay on top of this and know, not to let it get in my head so much that I can't, so that I dig myself this hole of not eating. So there was that. And then I was cramping bad, but I did not have this element stuff in there. I think I had just regular electrolytes, probably something you can buy at the grocery store. Nothing crazy. But I was totally cramping. And then this year, I did not cramp at all. Granted, I had 2 foot pegs to work with. And there also might be a little level of I'm a better rider. Although I definitely feel like it was still extremely exhausting for me. So whether this played a role or not, ultimately I don't know, but I cramped 2019, I guess it would be 2020, 2020, and then I did not cramp this year, and I had this stuff in my pack. Same with the grinding stone. I had this stuff in my pack again, and I did not cramp. That one was a little different, though, because there was definitely, like, spots of rest, per se. But I think that, it's a crazy amount of sodium. And the weird thing with cramping is there's been research on it, but it's all very inconclusive. So there's not like one answer to why people cramp and how to solve the problem. Basically, all solutions have been anecdotal reports. So, there's the pickle juice, the mustard, whether that's, what is that's helping the mechanism of cramping subside, is undetermined. As far as I know, if you know otherwise, please let me know, because I'd be super curious in that. But there is 1,000 milligrams of sodium in this, so these elements are really salty, so maybe that plays a role. But I think regardless, just kind of balancing out your alkalinity, would it be, in your body? Balancing out your body with electrolytes. I'm talking over my head now.
There's something to be said for sodium playing a role, and potassium and magnesium. So that's why these packets are really good. But again,
we have no affiliation with them either.
Yeah, but hook us up if you're out there. So they work really good. And again, it is one of those things, like, you need to put yourself in these situations and try stuff out and see what goes for you. The other thing you can do with these is kind of preload a little bit. So, like, I'll actually drink a packet in water
before
the morning of, and if I remember, I try and do it the night before as well, just to have that kind of topped off system, if you will. The other thing we do sometimes is the noon tablets. They've worked as well. Like, same thing. I don't really add it to my water, but I'll just pop one in my mouth and chew on it while going down the trail if I start to cramp up. Typically don't do any of these things for long days, rides, even, big hard loops, because just the intensity level is different. And
way lower.
I just don't tend to cramp up on those stuff anymore. Not to say I haven't in the past, and not to say I won't in the future, but unless it gets super gnarly, usually just because of the fact you're riding and stopping and hanging out a little more, and you're drinking, your food intake's probably a little more consistent, and your water intake's a little more consistent on the ride days. At least for me, I don't tend to worry about cramping, but races for sure. And then from there, it's just dealing with it.
Yeah. Any tips for long rides?
I think long rides, food's pretty important. Just to
Don't forget to eat.
Don't forget to eat, and like, try and pack real food if you can. I mean, I don't know. At least for me personally, if we do like and by long, I mean, we're like, 50 miles of pretty tough single track, which we can find here in Idaho fairly readily. Not like, Sun Valley flowy single track, but like, some real gnar out there.
Okay, Josh.
Then,
basically, long days in the mountains. And I think the biggest thing is, like what he was saying, is having real food, and just going back to having a plan and having experimented with it before. And then, like, for me, I feel like definitely I like to keep up on my food for sure. So I'll often be eating a little bit of snacks when oftentimes people are not eating at all. Like, this is pre-lunch break, quote unquote, and I'm still like eating gels or gummies and just kind of just staying on top of that. But that's because I know me, and I just really avoid that dark zone of the hole that I'm so terrified of. But that's helped me. And to be honest, I feel like I'm probably working a lot harder than Josh on a lot of these rides, just because his skill level is a little bit higher than mine. And so, just, I would say, don't forget food, make it quality food, and anything you want to add?
Yeah, before I rambled off onto nothing there, the real food part, I've just felt better. So if I've gone all day just eating bars and goos and gummies, just don't feel that great at the end. Whereas if we pack a good sandwich, maybe a banana, and then a bar or two or a thing of gummies, I just tend to feel better at the end of the ride and just have a little bit more energy. So that's it on that.
What about post race?
Depends on your goals. Like, I would say if you have to get back to training for the next race, the next day, it's very important. If you're going racing and
you just did your event
and you want to go celebrate, go have a good time. It is important for recovery for sure. I don't want to underplay that. Probably the least beneficial thing you could do is go race, not eat, and drink your dinner. But from a celebratory standpoint, that's going to be more fun than drinking water, rehydrating, eating your veggies and lean protein. But if you are, got to get back in the saddle the next day and start training for the next event, that's obviously a better route to go. Protein, very important for recovery, as that's going to lead to decreased muscle soreness, increased muscle gain. Refilling glycogen stores with carbs, eating healthy lean fats.
Healthy lean fats?
Yeah. Healthy fats. Yeah. I don't know if those two would go together.
Is it called an oxymoron?
I don't think that's it.
Whatever.
Right.
Okay, so I think that's it for race.
Well, real quick, go ahead, I guess.
I was just going to prompt you to talk about that.
Get into this. So I kind of have an example here of one way to go about pre-race nutrition.
This would be like if you really want to get this
would be
nitty-gritty.
This is, you got everything else, all the other ducks are in a row. So you've been eating good all week, you're plenty hydrated, and now you're like, I want to try and get maximum performance out of today's event. Let's say the event starts at noon. Because part of this too, if your event starts in the morning, you're going to have to figure out how much food can I eat early enough to where I don't feel bloated and big and, on the start line. And so whether that's even waking up earlier to be able to get your nutrition in, whether that makes sense for you or whether, you can do it all in one meal, these are all, kind of important things. So this would be roughly for a 180-pound athlete, race starting at noon. So goal would be to eat 1 to 1.5 grams of carbohydrate per pound of body weight, 20 to 30 grams of lean protein, and a minimal amount of fat. Fat would be one thing in general that you kind of want to stay away from. Heavy, large amounts of fat pre-race or pre-event. So what that would look like, caloric needs, it would be 180 to 270 grams of carbs, which is quite a bit of carbs to fit in, right? Hence having to get up earlier, so this actual noon start time works out well in that case. 20 to 30 grams lean protein, and then 15 to 25 grams of fat. So an example, 4 hours out, so this would kind of be breakfast. You could have a cup of cooked oatmeal, 2 tablespoons of honey, 6 ounces of yogurt, large banana, some raisins on top, and then 20 ounces of water. So that would put you at about 150 grams of carbs right away. You would want that to sit, so about 2 hours later. And again, as you get closer to the race, you would want your foods to be less dense. So about 2 hours out, you could have a slice of bread with some jam on it and some type of sports drink. And then immediately before, like 30 to 60 minutes out, this would be super quick digesting carbs. So this could be a chew, packet of gummies, or a gel or something like that. And so if you added all that up, that puts you at about 250 grams of carbs. And that would be in kind of a 4-hour window to be able to get all that stuff in and not go to the start line feeling like you got to, take a quick break and hit the pooper. So if your race time is earlier in the morning and you know you can't eat this amount of food beforehand, again, totally fine. It would just be practice, getting out there, trying it. Try it when it's not a race. That way, when you do get up to the start line, you kind of have a good idea how you're going to feel.
Where'd you come up with that?
This has just been reading the data and putting together basically a little plan and doing some math calculations to get it in. So one other quick thing, just want to hit on, like the old carbo load idea, right? That's been around forever. I mean, I remember in high school, like that was a big one. You got a carbo load the night before, like a football game or whatever. There's not a whole lot of evidence out there that that's a good idea. Not to say you shouldn't have carbs the night before, but you don't need to eat a bowl of spaghetti.
So you make yourself sick.
Yeah, having the idea that you're going to have all this stored energy that then you're going to be able to use or express during the race. It's not quite how it works. So in general, it's better to just go about eating healthy whole foods and your typical amounts, and then you're eating to perform immediately before the race. But there's no need to carbo load starting 7 days out or any of that stuff. It's not quite how the body works.
Nope. All right. Well, I think that sums up our race or / ride day nutrition. We hope this is valuable to you, just kind of talking based on our own research and our own experimentation, and just kind of what we've seen with others. So yeah, if you have any questions, shoot us a DM. You can find us on Instagram at Enduro Method. You can find us on Facebook, or shoot us an email, and you can reach us through our email at our website, enduromethod.com. And like I had mentioned there in the Macronutrient Podcast, the one previous to this, if you have not listened to it, if you are interested in diving more into your nutrition, we do offer that with our one-on-one premium Enduro Method coaching option. So keep that in mind, and we hope you enjoyed this, and we will catch you on the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.